turning right here. It's trying to lose us on these corners.
Now, right. Bloody copper. Keep going. Keep going!
So 1967's Robbery opens with one of cinema's great white-knuckle car chases as the police pursue a gang of crooks through the back streets of London. It's a shame that this scene is barely spoken about today, as it pretty much acted as director Peter Yates' audition for being given the reins to the following year's classic cop film Bullet, starring Steve McQueen. The opening of this film is an ultra-tense 15 minutes that acts as the perfect introduction to one of my favourite heist thrillers of the 60s or any decade. Let's take a look. So after the mostly successful opening heist, and once all the dust has settled, we realise that the head honcho of the outfit wasn't even present for it. You know, he's that guy who plans from the shadows. And in fact, the gang hasn't long retreated to their normal lives when they're called to regroup by Stanley Baker, who persuades them to use the takings from the previous robbery in order to bankroll another, more ambitious and elaborate job. Baker estimates that there's £3 to £4 million on the Royal Mail night train from Glasgow to London on the Tuesday following the bank holiday weekend. However, for this bigger heist to be a success, they're going to need a bigger crew and the help of some specialists along the way. One such guy, a prisoner who was previously Baker's cellmate, the only problem being is that he's still in jail, and this leads to a scene of one of the most matter-of-fact and alarmingly easy prison breaks ever filmed. It's something that the gang will come to regret later, as well as that school teacher who was the eyewitness during the film's opening car chase. Hi, I'm Stephen at Real Classic Film Reviews. If you are a fan of films like Robbery or other classic movies from right across the history of cinema, then drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and let me know if you've seen this film in the comments below. So what 1967's Robbery provides is that classic tale of a gang of crooks preparing a heist, which is something I love watching in movies, you know, the gang getting together, discussing the details of the job. And the one element I love in this film in particular is that previously mentioned school teacher who gets caught up in the opening chase and then IDs one of the gang earlier on, immediately making the whole thing a pretty risky venture. And she's not the only thing that's threatening to derail the whole thing. One of the gang members' emotions gets the better of him later on to disastrous effect in one of the film's few rare moments of emotion. But to avoid spoilers, I'll leave that one for you to see for yourself. Now, I'm not sure how well known Robbery is these days. You know, modern viewers thinking of a 60s crime film will probably gravitate towards stuff like The Italian Job, and maybe that's because this film is very, very serious. You know, there's no time in this film for hijinks and jovial banter between thieves. Think 1995's Heat, but without Pacino's theatrics.
I'm not sure.
Robinson, you're in. You were in the moment you came over that wall.
But that serious kind of straight to business tone is one of the things I love about this film, to be honest. I mean, I enjoy both ends of that spectrum, from The Italian Job to films like Heat, but I like to see, you know, high level criminals acting more like technicians. Risking jail time for millions of pounds would, I assume, be a pretty serious matter. And befitting such a film, here we have Stanley Baker's cold as ice ringleader, you know, this guy who executes precise crimes with a close-knit crew of hand-picked specialist guys and schedules that literally run like clockwork. Here he plays a version of Bruce Reynolds, the real-life mastermind behind the 1963 Great Train Robbery. Baker here is depicted as having this kind of loveless relationship with his beautiful wife, played by Joanna Pettet, who's blissfully ignorant of his wrongdoings, kind of enjoying the lavish lifestyle that it provides. But even she gets cold feet at one point in the film when she discovers a gun in the house and begins to doubt her future.
What's the gun for, Paul?
The gun is nothing.
You don't need a gun to go straight.
It's nothing.
Don't lie, Paul. Say it.
Kate.
You never used to need a gun. No, you used to...
Shut up!
And one of the great things that I love about heist movies, you know, that whole genre in general, is not just seeing how the crooks will pull off this job, but also seeing exactly how it will all inevitably unravel. And here in Robbery, we have Baker's Zulu co-star James Booth being brilliant as the suspicious and equally intelligent expected George Langdon. I do love Booth in this, but I only really know him from this and Zulu. You know, they're both totally different characters, so it's always a bit odd when I see him in either film. So another thing I've really been enjoying recently when I've been watching a lot of kind of 60s and 70s crime films is seeing famous London landmarks. And Robbery has some cool 60s period footage of places like Trafalgar Square and Marble Arch, as well as a great scene where the gang meet up in plain sight at a football match between Leyton Orient and Swindon Town.
Cash on the nail right after the job. It means we'll have to hide out till we've counted it. We'll be pinned down and the law will be swarming.
So we need a hideout, close by.
Robbery gets its authentic atmosphere from being shot completely on location and features no studio set or ropey back projection effects that plagued some of the films of the time. Even the gang's derelict hideout was filmed at the then recently derelict RAF Gravely Air Force Base. It's a great location and features in some brilliantly tense moments later in the film. So cutting between the robbery plans, you know, the inspector's work and a brief peek at Clifton's depressing domestic life, Robbery is pretty much the template for the modern crime heist movie. Yeah, the laughs can be few and far between, and these days its treatment of women, the ones it bothers to include, would be frowned upon. But it's a great time capsule of a side of London that still bubbled below the surface of the swinging 60s. So sadly, in less than a decade after its release, star Stanley Baker would be dead at 48 years old, and this was probably the last great thing that he was in. Its director would of course go on to make The Friends of Eddie Coyle with Robert Mitchum, and of course Bullitt, which features one of cinema's most famous and greatest car chases that's always wheeled out in those top 10 lists, but this one's better. Go check it out.
Keep your eyes down and stop when I tell you. And when I say stop, you stop or you'll get some more.